Gypsy Rose Blanchard told everyone she was logging off for 30 days. A whole month. That's what she promised, no social media, no updates, just a break for her mental health. She even made it sound noble, asking her fans to join her on this detox journey, encouraging them to take some time away too. It was supposed to be about healing, about getting back in touch with herself, maybe finally stepping away from the constant online chaos, but in reality, that break didn't even last a full weekend. 3 days later, yes, just 3, Gypsy popped right back up, acting like she'd never said a word about needing space. And it wasn't a soft re-entry either. She came in bold, posting a photo with Ken, hand in hand, smiling like it was a couple's photo shoot. The caption? Full of hashtags like hashtag Ken and Gypsy and hashtag relationship goals, finished off with a little red heart emoji like nothing had ever gone wrong. And then, of course, a dramatic quote about love being eternal and unbreakable. Sound familiar? Because it should. Gypsy's always been one for the theatrics, but this time, it wasn't giving peace. It was giving cover-up.
Gypsy said she was taking a 30-day break from social media to focus on herself, and that break lasted exactly 1 overpriced latte and a Target run. Y'all, I knew she couldn't do it. I told you. I called it the second she posted she was taking a 30-day break. Gypsy is physically incapable of staying off the FYP. I'm just saying. Y'all, she popped back up in less than 48 hours like, hey y'all, just wanted to let y'all know, me and Ken are doing great. Please, that was not a relationship update. That was damage control wrapped in pastel Canva font. Y'all, that post was less about her relationship with Ken and more about saving face. Because the internet lit her up for the way she treated him. Just like Ryan, she humiliated Ken. Cheating on Ken with Ryan, the same guy she cheated on with Ken. Y'all, you can't make it up. Y'all, Gypsy saw the tide turning. And Ken is out there just trying to literally survive this whole circus. And Gypsy, she can't handle not being the center of sympathy. So what does she do? She hops back on TikTok with a strategic story. Look at us, guys. We're thriving. Ken and I are doing great. We're soulmates. We love each other. So perfect. He's totally going to ignore the fact that, well, I cheated on him with Ryan, my ex-husband. Y'all, that story post did not scream love. It screamed, please forget I tried to air this guy out last week and tried to spin it like I was the victim. Again. Y'all, she ain't trying to post about how much her and Ken are in love. She missed all the attention. Gypsy doesn't take social media breaks. She takes dramatic pauses. She reloads faster than your petty ex watching your story. And y'all, she had to come back because, well, again, damage control. Y'all, that wasn't a break for healing. That was public relations in panic mode. I'm just saying, there's that.
Just days before that sudden break, people were already asking questions. Ken hadn't been seen in any of her content. Her energy was off. Her face looked like she'd been crying in those final live streams. Fans were already speculating that something was going on. Then, suddenly, she's gone. She says she needs healing. But now, it looks more like she needed to cool the heat and distract from what people were starting to notice. Because here's what really happened. Gypsy had been caught messaging her ex-husband Ryan. And this wasn't some harmless, hope you're well kind of message. She was sending photos, telling him he still made her feel safe. Calling him her comfort zone. All while she was still publicly with Ken. So when Ken vanished from her social media, it didn't take long for people to put 2 and 2 together. The messages were intimate. Emotional. Way too familiar for someone supposedly moving on. So what does Gypsy do? Instead of addressing anything, she plays the mental health card and disappears, until she suddenly doesn't. Her return was too polished, too timed, too convenient. 3 days later, she's back with Ken like nothing happened, posing together, making statements through filtered pictures instead of words. It wasn't a comeback. It was a reset, a rollout, a rebrand to make it look like the love story was still intact. But here's the thing. Real love doesn't need an audience. It doesn't require poetic captions or carefully curated selfies. If things with Ken were really okay, why go to such lengths to prove it? Why come back with a full-blown performance instead of quietly moving forward? It's hard to believe Ken just brushed off those messages to Ryan. The kind of emotional weight they carried, those aren't things you forget with one cute picture.
Gypsy's messaging Ryan again, and Ken's not happy with her. Now, thanks to some messages released by Ryan, the public learned that Gypsy still had the hots for her ex-husband after she had her baby, sending Ryan multiple photos of herself and her new daughter. Well, Ken wasn't all too happy about this, and it appears that Gypsy didn't come clean with him until after she got caught. And now she's up to it again. So this comes as Ryan has been very silent on social media lately. Some would say eerily silent. Ryan posted a message letting everyone know that he is fine, and he appreciates all the support. Well, Gypsy is apparently taking a break from social media as well, 30 days. And I have a source, a friend of one of these two former paramours, that says Gypsy and Ryan are still texting. They're still in communication, and that Gypsy is initiating some of this. Now, I also have some information about the status of Gypsy and Ken's relationship.
It's almost like someone else is behind the scenes, managing the narrative. And if you've been following Gypsy for long enough, then you already know that her stepmother Christy tends to linger in the background, often playing the role of silent producer in this ongoing online drama. The timing, the way things unfold, it all feels way too orchestrated to be authentic. So was this really a reconciliation? Or just damage control dressed up in romance? Christy's never really taken a step back when it comes to Gypsy's life. She's been knee-deep in everything for years. From private family chats to public interviews, even down to carefully timed posts, she's not just present, she's actively involved. And what's become more obvious with time is how determined Christy is to keep Gypsy and Ken together. She's practically their biggest cheerleader, always ready to defend Ken and pull strings behind the curtain. For some, it's way too much. But the reason she's so involved? Well, it benefits her, and not in small ways. Let's be real, Gypsy's the one pulling in the attention, the deals, the money. She's the face of it all. And somehow, Christy has managed to insert herself into that spotlight too, almost like she's part of the package. She shows up in front of the cameras, offers quotes, plays the part of manager or spokesperson, because the longer Gypsy stays trending, the longer Christy stays in the loop. And that's where Ken fits in. A steady relationship makes Gypsy seem more put together, more like the second chance story the public wants to root for. And Christy knows that a quiet, agreeable partner like Ken helps sell that image. Ken's also easy to guide, which makes him perfect in Christy's eyes. Someone who won't push back, someone she can charm and keep close. So when one of Christy's friends posted a sweet text from Ken calling Christy his future mother-in-law and sending her Mother's Day love, it didn't seem like a coincidence. It felt like part of the plan, a little PR moment to show how tight they all are. It wasn't just a sweet gesture, it was calculated.
Point. Do Christy, Rod, Ken just look at Gypsy and go, you know what? Maybe she hasn't changed at all. Because right now, given serious I can fix her energy. And y'all, she broke the whole motherboard. Like, how many red flags do they need? She's spinning lies, jumping between men, doing press tours, and turning diapers into drama. Y'all, it's deja vu all over again, but this time, she's got a TikTok account. Do they not remember how this story ended the last time? Oh, that's right. It ended in murder. But sure, let's just hope for the best this time around. Rod's probably out here like, she's just finding herself. Sir, she found the lifetime camera crew, not accountability. And y'all, Christy, let's be real, Christy's a whole PR team. She's got her clipboard, press releases, and probably a statement drafted just in case Gypsy and Ken break up. Ken? Let's talk about Ken. Ken is the emotional cast member at this point. Blink twice if you're okay, Ken. At what point do they stop being supporters and start becoming enablers? Because y'all, again, this is not her evolving. It's just her rebranding.
As for Gypsy's so-called social media break, that was never about growth or personal peace. It was a distraction, an escape route she used the moment things started getting too messy. It was a way to cover up what was really happening behind the scenes, her emotional messages to her ex-husband Ryan. People had started to catch on, and suddenly, she was gone. Not because she needed healing, but because she needed to redirect the public's attention, gain sympathy, and maybe even pull Ken back into her orbit after things got rocky. But here's where it all unraveled. The second Ken came back, so did she. No easing back in, no moment of reflection. She went full force into couple content, hand-holding photos, dramatic quotes about forever love, and hashtags galore. It wasn't soft or subtle, it was loud and clearly aimed at proving a point. Gypsy wanted everyone to know she was still in control of the story. That she could vanish and return on her terms and still have people believe the love story was intact. But the timing couldn't have been more awkward. While Gypsy was uploading her curated couple moment, Christy's biological daughter, Mia, was celebrating her anniversary with her boyfriend. Christy made a sweet post about it, classic proud mom energy. But Gypsy? Not even a congrats. Instead, she dropped her photo with Ken right in the middle of it all, like she had something to prove, like she needed to make sure the spotlight was still firmly on her. And if you know Gypsy, you know she doesn't like sharing attention. That post felt more like a move to reclaim center stage than a genuine moment of affection. This isn't the first time Gypsy's played the disappearing game either. After that viral Oscar video where she got emotional over Ryan, she vanished. After the non-invasive paternity test mess? Same thing. Every time the heat gets turned up, she pulls the same move, ghosts social media, gives no closure, and then reappears with a shiny new story and no accountability. It's always framed as needing peace or privacy, but if that were true, why does she always return so quickly, with emotional captions and romantic photos in tow? The truth is, Gypsy doesn't step away to heal. She steps away to reset the narrative. She's not just chasing attention, her entire public image depends on it. It fuels her brand, her relevance, and ultimately her income. So when things start to slip out of her control, she pulls the plug, disappears, and comes back as if nothing happened. It's not about growth. It's about maintaining power over the story people are being told. She said she was stepping away. She told everyone she needed a break from social media, even encouraged her followers to join her in a digital detox, one that was supposed to be all about healing, self-reflection, and finally putting space between herself and all the noise. It sounded sincere, maybe even overdue, but that whole plan unraveled almost immediately. Not even 3 full days went by before she popped back online like nothing had happened. Not a slow re-entry. Not a quiet update. She came back with a bang. She posted a photo of her and Ken holding hands like everything was back to perfect. The caption was filled with couple hashtags, hashtag Ken and Gypsy, hashtag relationship goals, and a big red heart emoji to top it off. And she didn't stop there, she included a dramatic quote about love being eternal and unbreakable, able to survive anything. But just a few days ago, she told the world she was mentally overwhelmed and needed time to step away for her well-being. Now she's pushing curated couple content with poetic captions? It wasn't just confusing, it felt like a calculated shift, like she was scrambling to steer the conversation away from something messy. Looking at how quickly she abandoned her so-called detox, it makes you rethink what the real motive was. It clearly wasn't about finding peace or gaining clarity. It was about burying a situation that was starting to slip out of her control. Her relationship with Ken had clearly hit a wall. He had vanished from her posts. Her mood in recent lives had shifted. People started picking up on the signs before she ever said anything, so she tried to get ahead of the speculation by pulling the "I need to log off for my mental health" move. But instead of actually disappearing to reset, she used the silence as cover, a way to play victim, maybe even to make Ken feel guilty. It was timed too precisely. One day she's all about peace and emotional recovery, and within a few heartbeats, she's back in full PR mode, pushing a perfectly polished image of a healed and happy couple. It was never a break. It was a strategy. The whole thing looked like a setup to make Ken feel bad, to tug at his emotions and guilt him into coming back around. And when she did return, she made sure to post with Ken right away, his hand in hers, smiling, hashtagging their love like it had never hit a rough patch. It was designed to make people forget everything that happened before the break. But for those paying attention, the cracks were still there. Just before all this, she'd been caught messaging her ex-husband Ryan. And these weren't innocent, friendly check-ins. She was telling him how safe he made her feel, sending him pictures, calling him her comfort zone, words that don't exactly line up with someone who's in a secure relationship. And while all that was happening, Ken had completely vanished. He wasn't showing up in posts, lives, or even comments. It was like he was wiped off the grid. Naturally, people started asking if they'd broken up, if he'd found out about the messages. Then suddenly, bam, he's back in her content, smiling like nothing ever happened. Are we really supposed to believe he read those messages and decided to just let it slide? That he was totally fine with her pouring out her heart to her ex? It's hard to believe. Even harder to respect. If Ken did come back after that, you've got to wonder what brought him back. Was it genuine love? Or was he pushed into it? Was Christy working behind the curtain again, smoothing things over for Gypsy like she's done before? Because that's the thing, none of this feels authentic. It feels rehearsed, arranged, handled. If everything was truly okay, they wouldn't need to sell it so hard. Gypsy wouldn't need to stage it all like a show, complete with emotional quotes and filtered couple selfies. Real love doesn't need to be performed, especially not for likes. Christy has always had a major presence in Gypsy's life, not from the sidelines, but right in the thick of everything. She isn't just hovering in the background, she's embedded in every aspect of Gypsy's personal and public world. From private conversations in family group chats to popping up in interviews and orchestrating subtle social media moves, Christy is constantly involved. And if you've been watching closely, one thing is pretty obvious: she's determined to keep Gypsy and Ken together. She doesn't just support their relationship, she actively pushes it. She's usually the first to speak up in Ken's defense, and a lot of the time, she's the one pulling strings to keep their image intact. Some people would even say she's overstepped, but to her, the benefits are too valuable to ignore. The truth is, Gypsy is the main financial force in that family. She's the one landing the TV deals, drawing in media attention, and scoring brand endorsements. And Christy has found a way to attach herself to that success. Whether it's tagging along on interviews, popping up in behind-the-scenes content, or simply acting as a spokesperson, she's made herself part of the Gypsy brand. The more Gypsy stays in the spotlight, the more Christy stays relevant too. And let's be real, a neat, stable image, one that includes a sweet relationship and a second-chance family storyline, makes Gypsy more appealing to networks and sponsors. Christy knows this, and she helps maintain that version of the story because it keeps them both in the game. Ken, from Christy's perspective, fits perfectly into that plan. He's not disruptive, he's agreeable, and above all, he's someone she can keep in her corner. That's why when one of Christy's friends posted a screenshot of Ken calling Christy his future mother-in-law and wishing her a happy Mother's Day, it didn't feel like a coincidence. It looked like it was all part of a carefully crafted moment, something meant to highlight how cozy and close-knit everything was. Not an accident, but a PR tactic, plain and simple. As for Gypsy's sudden announcement that she was stepping away from social media to focus on healing, well, that message didn't last long. It wasn't a true pause for peace. It felt more like a calculated move, a way to duck out just long enough to stop people from asking questions. The backlash about her messaging her ex, Ryan, had just started heating up, and she needed to shift the focus fast. Disappearing was her way of throwing everyone off track, maybe even a way to make Ken feel sorry for her or worry enough to come back around. But that silence barely lasted. In just a few days, she was back online like nothing ever happened. No slow rollout, no reflection, just a flood of new posts featuring her and Ken hand in hand, smiling with captions about unbreakable love and poetic lines that sounded like something out of a movie script. It didn't feel organic. It felt planned, like she wanted to show the world she still had control, that everything was fixed. That she was still in charge of her own story. And as fate would have it, her comeback happened at a suspiciously convenient time. Just as Christy's other daughter, Mia, was celebrating her 4.5-year anniversary with her boyfriend, Gypsy posted her own romantic photo set with Ken. Christy had shared a sweet and emotional post about Mia's relationship, a proud mom moment, but Gypsy didn't say a word about it. Instead, she shifted all attention back to herself with her own version of relationship goals. It didn't feel like support, it felt like a rivalry. Like she needed to make sure nobody forgot who the star was. This isn't the first time Gypsy has pulled something like this either. Whenever the pressure mounts, she vanishes. After the Oscars clip where she poured her heart out about Ryan, she disappeared. When there was controversy over her paternity test, she went silent again. These vanishings have become part of her cycle. But what she never does during those quiet spells is truly reflect. She doesn't return with growth or honesty, she returns with more polished content, vague captions about inner peace, and romanticized posts like nothing ever happened. If she were genuinely using those breaks to heal, we'd see a shift. But it's always the same pattern: leave, reset, come back as if the slate's clean. The reason she keeps doing it isn't that she's overwhelmed, it's because she knows the value of attention. Her platform thrives on it. The views, the endorsements, the clout, all of it depends on her staying in the public eye. So she can't afford to be forgotten. That's why even her so-called detoxes are performative. They're not about disconnecting, they're about manipulating the moment, taking back control before anyone else can control the story for her. At some point, you have to stop and wonder, are we witnessing someone truly struggling with their emotions, trying to find stability in the chaos of fame? Or are we watching someone who's learned to weaponize vulnerability, using emotional exits and dramatic comebacks as a tool to manage their image? Because there's a major difference between someone who's overwhelmed and someone who uses the language of mental health as a cover every time things get messy. And with Gypsy, that difference is becoming harder to ignore. Thanks for sticking around and diving deep with me into all this drama and strategy. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think this is real emotion or just another act? I want to hear what you think. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning the story behind the story. Catch you in the next one.